Hi. My last video I was talking about shyness, and then I talked about about schizoid affect, which I had, by the way, which has nothing to do with schizophrenia. It just means that the excuse me, the internal emotional state is disconnected from the facial expression. So it's essentially a 24/7 poker face. You just have a flat affect. And it happens when when their faces are policed. My face was policed by my brother, and his was by his dad, by my dad, our dad. And it's not safe to have human facial expressions. It's just so crazy. But what happens is the people who police our face, they see a facial expression and they think it might look like gay. They feel a kind of disgust, and they think it's like gay. Oh my God, that person they're looking gay, or whatever. Or they feel like the person is making fun of them for having, so they feel like they're attacked or in some way. And this I had both of those things, because I was attacked by my brother and my dad, mostly my brother, but also some other people. It's a very common thing for people who are habituated male. And the first time I learned about schizoid affect was when I went to a psychiatrist to get a recommendation for HRT for my transition, and she wrote down schizoid affect. I remember thinking, whoa, that's schizoid, what? No, not schizoid affective disorder, but schizoid affect, which is just a flat affect. I looked it up when I got home. And yeah, she was right about that. I felt shame about it, by the way, that the way she could look at me and just know that, because I was hiding, I'm hiding with this flat affect, and she's like looking right through me, and that freaked me out. But I didn't know what to do about it at the time. But I was aware of it. And I was aware that I would like this friend of mine that I see, I visit every week. He would, when we're watching TV, he would check in with me, we'd check in on each other, our facial expressions, and he'd have a facial expression. I'd feel like that kind of disgust, but I knew it wasn't his problem, it was my problem, but it was still there. So I tried. Sometimes I'd be able to mirror him, but sometimes I wouldn't. And I've mentioned before that I use psychedelics for healing trauma, and this is one of those things that it helped. It wasn't like some golden ticket or anything, but I noticed that I don't know which ceremony after which, because I went to 3 4-day ceremonies in like 2 years, or like a year. It was like summer, no, it was summer, winter, and then summer again. And I remember after one of those periods, I forget which, I was at work. My husband and I work on organs, and I was at the console and we were tuning, and I just started like making all these facial goofy, weird facial expressions, just completely out of the blue, and feeling the feelings that I would feel upon upon making those facial expressions. And I surmise what I was doing was kind of rebuilding this palate, the palate, because our face is it's our social organ. A face is a social organ. That's why it's so horrible when somebody does an acid attack on somebody, because they're trying to kill their social life completely, create horror on the faces of other people. But I think that's what this doing the ayahuasca, this neuroplasticity, intelligence trying to find a way to heal itself, just was spontaneously doing this, and I would do it. I never did it like as a practice. It would just be, I would feel the energy to do it, and I would do it. And I was always alone. I always made sure nobody was around, because I don't want to make all these goofy faces with somebody watching me. And some churches would have cameras, over the console, so I wouldn't do it then. I may look around, look at the other direction or something. It's not like they would be watching, but they could be, and they'd be like, "What's this freak doing?" So, another thing, I remember thinking about how it occurred to me that when I stopped giving facial expressions and stopped reading facial expressions and would read them as ridiculous, what was actually happening was like part of the connections in my brain were they weren't being used, so they actually fall away. Just like a deaf person or someone, let's say a hard of hearing person who doesn't wear hearing aids, will stop hearing certain frequencies because because the body is constantly trying to conserve energy. If I'm not using these facial expressions, these pathways they stop being used. I want them to be used. I want the full human experience, okay? I want the whole shebang. I'm greedy like that, okay? I'm done just pussyfooting around with life, okay? I'm not jumping out there taking big old risks. My nervous system is still gun shy about that. I follow it. My nervous system is the boss. It's the boss, and when it's willing to take more risks, I will take more risks. I'm not trying to strong arm this. There was a time when I used to try to strong arm. You just want to, die hard your way through healing. It doesn't work that way, because actually trying to, the sad and ironic fact is, if you try to express and die hard your way through healing, what you're actually trying to do is avoid healing. You want to get to that finish line so you can not feel those feelings of healing. So you're avoiding healing. So that's the irony of that. Anyway, I'm kind of rambling on now. So I'm driving home right now, and I will have some lunch, and I will talk to you later. Bye.